You're listening to DraftKings Network.
Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. If you're a smoker or dipper looking to make a change, you really only need one reason to do it. But with Zyn nicotine pouches, you can find many. Zyn is America's #1 nicotine pouch. It's made with only 6 simple ingredients. There are lots of options when it comes to nicotine satisfaction, but there's only one Zyn. Learn more about Zyn and find your reason to make a change by registering online at Zyn.com.
Smirnoff knows there's no I in football. Football is a we thing, an experience that is best enjoyed together with good drinks and good people. Smirnoff is the world's #1 vodka and is an official vodka partner of the NFL. And this year, Smirnoff is giving fans in select areas of the country a chance to win the ultimate game day experience. From tickets to sideline passes and much more, just head to WeDoGameDays.com until November 15, 2024 to enter for your chance to win. That's WeDoGameDays.com. Smirnoff, we do game days.
Please drink responsibly. Smirnoff number 21 vodka, distilled from grain, 40% alcohol by volume. The Smirnoff Company, New York, New York. Please do not share with anyone under legal drinking age. No purchase necessary. 21 plus. Ends November 15, 2024. See rules at website for participating area and other important details. Sponsored by Diageo Americas Inc., New York, New York.
Shadow Show.
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 Shadow in it.
You guys are superstitious. So when I wore a dolphin cap for like the first time in my life, you guys buried me, saying, among other things, that I'm the reason that the Dolphins have stunk since that moment. I'm presently wearing headphones sent to me by the University of Miami. I don't know if Mike Ryan thinks that it's superstitious that I shouldn't be doing this, as they could easily lose against Georgia Tech.
By all means, do a sight gag when we're not on the visual medium. That's cool.
I'm not doing the sight gag for the audience. I was asking you a legitimate
If you're trying
question.
to jinx the University of Miami, how are you guys doing? Because so much of this local hour over the last 6 years has been just dragging, rightfully, I guess, the University of Miami. And this year, I sincerely feel bad for God Bless Football, because their entire identity was tied up in having the victorious coach from the previous week's Miami game. And so far, there have been 0 opposing coaches, which was kind of disappointing considering what happened last week, which was what is believed to be the first ever meeting between 2 Cuban head football coaches. That was a momentous occasion that wasn't really met with any kind of fanfare.
I think we're doing what South Florida sports fans do in a spot like this. We're jumping on the bandwagon. Big UM fan over here.
Today is the day to do that, because
basketball season starts. Women at 11, men at 7.
Miami's 9-0. How many 9-0 teams are there? Indiana's also 9-0, right? I don't know
Oregon,
how many.
I believe.
Is Army 9-0?
Yep, Army's undefeated.
Well,
I don't know if they're 9-0.
9-0 is different.
Miami could, again, lose any one of their remaining 3 games. I think we've already seen them play 4 or 5 times. The way they will lose that game, I can't tell you how much delight I get from the fact that Cam Ward will continue, I'm assuming, well into the pros, the move of running 30 yards backwards and throwing totally against his body for his 1 interception of the game. When he did that up 39-31, it's one of the dumbest plays I've ever seen in the history of University of Miami football, and I love that he's done it like 5 times this
It's not
season.
even the dumbest play that he's made this season. Certainly the one at Cal. That was just that one. The thing is, like, I see where his mind goes, and I understand why he thinks he can make any throw, because he generally can. But yeah, we gotta knock that out. It should have been a 60 burger for Manny Diaz's defense. It was a 1-point game in the 4th quarter. Miami covers the 20.5-point spread.
They are 3 of 9-0. There's 3 9-0 teams. Indiana, we were right, and Oregon and Miami. But just Cam Ward is like he as great as he is. Jesse Palmer was like, you just got to accept that play. He's going to do that once a game, and he's so good that you just have to live with it.
Pat Forty wrote the following during the game. I'm sure he regrets it. Duke 28, Miami 17. Still waiting for someone to explain why the Hurricanes were 20-point favorites. Blue Devils were my lock of the week on the pod. Again, Miami scored or won by 22 points. And the end of that game, just everything that was happening where Duke clearly fell apart because at the half, a whole lot of people are gathered around waiting to see if Miami's now something that can be root against. We could root against it because it's not just neutral. It's a team and a program with a past, and also it's totally fair to criticize their schedule, even though Louisville, that victory looks better now that Louisville won at Clemson.
Louisville.
The thing that's exciting is that the University of Miami has a fun and interesting team. They will lose because they cannot cover a running back out of the backfield. It's coming every time. They have no answers for it. Again and again, it results in 40-yard plays when it should not. And they kill you every time on 3rd and 7 with that shit because you got a linebacker 7 yards behind the running back. How is it that they have not figured out how to cover this yet this season?
I don't know if they are. It's a personnel issue, too. Kiko Mauanoa is just really slow. My heart sinks every time he follows a running back in motion. That's a playbook against this Lane Skidry defense, which is make the secondary tackle in space, and they'll struggle with that. I think you've seen some improvements. I thought what was encouraging, even though that is not a good Duke offense whatsoever, and that was one of their better games, probably their second-best game of the season.
Duke made 3 professional plays. What is going on with wide receivers in football making the best catches every weekend that I've seen until the next best catch?
Someone needs to look into what happened this weekend specifically. I've never seen so many individual highlight reel plays from a football weekend in my life.
We've gone too far with gloves. Can we agree?
Duke had 3 catches in that game where I was like, oh my God, they're playing out of their mind.
How about the individual effort from both Cam and Xavier Restrepo on that long touchdown pass? Well, they had 2 long touchdown passes, but the one where Cam escapes the pocket, does unbelievable wizardry in manipulating that pocket, also holding onto the ball way too long, and then finding a receiver 2 receivers in the end zone. DB gets a hand to it, but Restrepo tracks the ball the entire way and catches the deflection. And Xavier Restrepo, an unlikely all-time prolific Miami Hurricanes wide receiver.
He's gotten to the point that I'm stunned when, as he did in that game, he just dropped a ball that was 30 yards downfield, perfectly thrown, for the stupidity of the Cam Ward throw against his body running 30 yards backward. He makes 10 throws a game that are clearly professional throws. Like it's not a college quarterback. You're like, oh my God, where he put that ball in that place very confidently. I saw Shedeur Sanders talking about this. He's gone from a 5th-round pick, it feels like, to a 1st-round pick because you see 10 throws a game where you're like, those are all NFL throws.
And you see a bunch of throws a game that'll gonna get it like a general manager totally fired. Totally fired. He's gonna be an unbelievable case study for these front offices because, all right, we're gonna put on the Cal tape. Really excited to see this, and it would be both the pros and the cons to drafting Cam Ward. He has certainly improved his draft status. His camp will tell you that he got a 4th-round draft grade. He could have very well been undrafted, but he looks like a first-round quarterback this year.
Can you explain this part to me? Because I remember when you were in the middle of all the NIL stuff, I remember you slow playing the idea that toward the end there, as Cam Ward was deciding between whether he was going to go to Miami or declare pro, that there seemed to be some last moves in negotiating that made it obvious that Miami might also lose Cam Ward and then have an irrelevant season this year because whoever would have been their second best quarterback would not have been Cam Ward, and they would have lost already multiple games.
Yeah, Miami was chasing 2 quarterbacks at the time that Cam Ward was committing. And it's just one of the quarterbacks didn't have eligibility, but the day that Cam Ward committed, it was the day that the Miami Dolphins played the Kansas City Chiefs in that bone-chilling playoff game last year. And that was certainly a day to remember. I'm not really sure what the pivot would have been off of Cam.
The question that I was asking you basically is, wasn't he available to everybody by the time that Miami scooped him up? Couldn't any team have gone and gotten Cam Ward at that price?
I know he was talking to Ohio State and FSU pursued him as well. And there was Miami. The main stalking horse in terms of the recruiting process for Miami was, I'm either going to go pro or I'm going to go to Miami. If you recall, he filmed the video that was on his social media declaring to go to the NFL draft, which was just a leverage play.
Chris Cody, have we lured you in yet? Billy, have we lured you into football? Are you guys...
No, I'm wondering if Xavier Restrepo went golfing or not. Because he put out there that he was trying to go golfing the next day and was asking for help. Did anyone get him a tee time?
He does that a lot.
Does he?
Yeah, he tried to get into a PGA course in New Jersey during the bye week. Yeah.
How much does he make? Can you tell us that?
Who, Restrepo?
Yeah.
I don't know how much he makes. I don't know how much his NIL deal is for, but I wouldn't reveal it.
I feel like he could pay for his own golf round, right?
I do know that when it comes to NIL resources, decisions have to be made for players, and I don't think it broke down I don't know how many of you are watching SMU, but there's a lot of former Miami Hurricanes players, and there were players that are performing well for SMU that Miami essentially had to ask themselves, do we want X or do we want blank? And Miami sided with X.
I think this show, and really Dan, should become the sponsor for Xavier Restrepo's golf habit. We pay for it. Whenever he wants to golf, he has to put a little video out saying thank you to the Dan Le Batard Show, but we pay for it. You in?
Isn't he just sort of milking all he can out of his situation? Isn't he just you guys just got done saying it's going to be hard to explain to people of future generations that Restrepo is the greatest by far University of Miami record-holding receiver in the history of football in a program that has Michael Irvin and Reggie Wayne and Andre Johnson and a bunch of Hall of Famers. You cannot explain to me there is not a sane person out there that can explain to me how Restrepo is going to shatter all the receiving.
Well, he plays 5 seasons, some of them play 3.
Yeah, but he only had 1 catch. Because I was ready to come in and poo-poo it and be like, look, he had the extra COVID year,
in 2020,
blah, blah, blah.
I think he had 1 reception.
Right, that's what I mean. But it's hard to argue. He had 1 year with 1 reception. So
it's pretty tough reconciling that stat that you just said. When it comes to receptions, I believe Leonard Hankerson is sitting atop it.
What?
So, yeah, Miami, for as much talent as that they've had at the position in terms of being prolific, the greatness doesn't often match the output. So Miami's an interesting case study. But Xavier Restrepo is a really good player. Keep in mind the quarterbacks that he's done this with. Yeah, he's having an all-time great season this year with Cam Ward, but Miami hasn't been sturdy at that position during Xavier Restrepo's time here. He came in as a lowly touted recruit that might be a DB prospect. This is a guy that worked really hard and improbably now is Miami's most prolific pass catcher, with Michael Irvin on the sideline essentially being Miami's mascot.
Can I ask a rude question, just for not you on specific, just college sports in general moving forward? Because of NIL and the incentivization of certain players staying if they're probably not going to make it in the NFL, right? Are we headed into a world where school records are all going to be who? Who is this person? And it's someone that doesn't end up being a great prospect. Because the only thing preventing that from happening is players leaving to go to another school to get yards at that other school, right?
I think we're actually going to re-enter a world in which the stats are probably more reflective of someone's greatness at the school, because people used to always leave early for the NFL. And that's what, if you look at Miami's record books, that's largely to blame for why Xavier Restrepo is sitting atop it, is a lot of the greats that came through this program left.
I think Billy's on to something, though. I think you could have, I really do, I think you could have a guy who could be the leading wide receiver at 2 universities.
Wow.
How about that? Historically. Because you have guys who are 27 years old walking around college campuses.
We may be trending towards a situation where a player has his number retired for 2 different schools.
Wow. Cam Ward.
I saw that Ryan McGee put up on his Twitter account that Diego Pavia has beat now Hugh Freeze 3 different times, 3 different seasons, each of them playing for different people when they beat them. So you got New Mexico State over Liberty, New Mexico State over Auburn, and Vandy over Auburn. 3 different times. He's just chasing Hugh Freeze around.
He has his number.
Did you see what happened? There was a viral post from a Vanderbilt linebacker who played out of his mind against Auburn. He put out a screen cap of a text message with the caption "Merry Christmas." He was recruited by Auburn, and they pulled his offer on Christmas Day last year, saying we're not going to actually sign a linebacker this class. And so he stewed on that for about a year, dominated the game against Auburn, and puts out Merry Christmas with the screen cap evidence that they cut him.
Billy, were you moved by the all-Cuban coaching matchup, Manny Diaz against Mario Cristobal, at the center of a disappointing crowd for a 9-0 team and afternoon football? I was bummed out how that looked on television, just because I'd like people to treat this as if it's one of the best teams in the country locally. Like it, and I understand that you're not going to get 80,000 for a noon game against an opponent like Duke. But this is one of the best teams in the country, Stugotz. Like and it's the most interesting one. It's the most fun because they'll allow 5 touchdowns and they'll score 7.
You were disappointed in the crowd. You should expect that kind of crowd, right? I mean, I understand what you're saying. You want it to look better. You want to be proud of the university, but that's kind of the standard crowd for a Canes-Duke game at noon.
I'm just saying
It's
that
certainly not the standard crowd for a Canes-Duke game at noon. The standard is well worse what we saw. That was akin to 2017 after Miami beat Virginia. They had a nice crowd around 60,000. The Hard Rock Stadium's, we've done this before. It's a difficult stadium to track because if you get a crowd for 60,000, most college venues, you're happy with that. Miami's not this big-time college football program that can fill the 100-seat stadium the way that they can in Ann Arbor.
This is also not a Canes problem. Check in a Dolphins game, the first series of a drive of the game. Check in on the Heat, the first quarter. We just stink at showing up on time. Third quarter, when the game's getting going, it's going to look fine in there. But we just stink in the first quarter, all right? It's just who we are. Accept it.
I think it could be a valid criticism in retrospect if you're applying the context of this team deserves more support. But I actually saw that crowd and I said, this is pretty good for Miami-Duke at noon, no matter Miami's record.
I was not moved. To answer that previous question. I did think it would be. Honestly, there was at halftime, it was like, man, Manny Diaz ruining this season would be pretty funny, right? All things considered. If Manny's the guy and then this somehow leads to what happens at UM sometimes where you lose one and then it gets sloppy and then things start getting out of control. If Manny were to kind of derail the potential playoff run, it would have been funny.
It would have been really disheartening for Manny Diaz year 1 to beat Mario Cristobal year 3.
Yeah.
No doubt. That would have been difficult. Almost conceded 60. Howdy, loyal audience. It's Mike Ryan, and we're getting down to the nitty-gritty of football season, which means you've probably enjoyed more than a few tailgates, and right by your side at that tailgate is that beautiful white can of Miller Lite. From defending your favorite team after a bad loss to obsessively checking your fantasy lineups, football fandom is bigger than just Sundays. Miller Lite knows the passion that comes with rooting for your team, like the debate that sparked in 1975. Great taste versus less filling. So what's the best thing about the original light beer? Let it be both. It is for me. Miller Lite keeps it simple. Undebatable quality with great taste and only 96 calories. It's a beer that strips away everything that you don't need and holds on to what matters most. A light beer that actually tastes like beer. And the original light beer since 1975. Make your game time taste like Miller time. Tastes great and less filling. Let it be both. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/Dan, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs than premium regular beer.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
Today's episode is sponsored by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you'll hear more about DraftKings and all it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Stugotz and Billy are working hard. They are crawling all over football. They are looking in all the crevices when Monday morning arrives and you want your NFL coverage. God Bless Football has you covered. And also, God Bless Football is going to end up very soon flying to Arizona, landing in Arizona, sponsored by Smirnoff, and they're going to do, during a football Sunday, they're going to do an Arizona watch party. Before we get to telling people what is on God Bless Football, though, Stugotz, which you've already done, how excited are you to do in Arizona what you just did in Chicago?
I'm very excited because this game has actually turned into a big game. It is Jets, it is Cardinals. The Cardinals are good, and the Jets are right back in the playoff hunt. I mean,
Kyler Murray Murray is fun to watch and says he's most comfortable at the quarterback position, that he's never been this comfortable. And it's just so fun to watch when those guys are comfortable back there.
You mentioned Arizona, Dan. You could join us from the DraftKings Sportsbook at TPC Scottsdale. Jets Cardinals kickoff 2:25 local time, and we're also going to be on YouTube if you're wondering, 21 and older because it's a sportsbook. Some people are saying, hey, what should we expect when we're out there? Should I go? Is it worth the drive? Here's what you should expect. If you're not from there and you want to watch on YouTube, you don't want to fly for 5 hours or whatever, we're going to be on YouTube. You can enjoy the show there. If you're there in person, we're going to be doing the show, to my understanding, but primarily for YouTube, but we're going to have breaks. We're going to be talking. We're going to be interacting with the fans, shaking some hands, kissing some babies. Just hang out with us. You know what I mean? A good time will be had by all. And I'll tell you this. Stugotz is saying that he's excited about it. And you ask, is this going to be similar to the situation in Chicago? This is all presented by Smirnoff, by the way, the world's number one vodka. I mentioned that already. Yeah. So you were asking, is this going to be similar to Chicago? I will say it is not in this sense. The Jets will be playing, and Stugotz is going to be on edge most of the time. Mike Yeh will be there as well, on edge. And if the Jets lose, I imagine they're going to be in Jets garb, I would think, right? So I said, you know what? We need to make an executive decision. We're not going to be flying to Scottsdale, Arizona, just to be having a Jets watch party. So I went on and I bought myself some Cardinals gear, and it's supposed to be arriving tonight by 7 p.m., and I will be there. Bear down, Billy. Maybe no more because the Bears kind of suck right now. And I may be flying high with the Cardinals come Sunday. So you can come join us and root on the Cards or root on the Jets or root against Stugotz or whatever you want to do.
I want to talk some NFL with you guys and something that I've not seen in football, which I saw during the Bills-Dolphins game. And I think we can declare that a hammer and a nail do not have a rivalry. Every time Buffalo and the Dolphins play in Buffalo, Miami loses. It doesn't matter who their players are. If Josh Allen and McDermott are the coach, they go to Buffalo and they lose a variety of different ridiculous ways. This time with a 61-yard field goal. This time with just an absurd play that basically Josh Allen is the only guy in the league allowed to make, which is just dumb running around in the backfield and then flipping it to a guy totally recklessly in the end zone and it being a touchdown.
Josh Allen is 13-2 career versus the Dolphins.
And I can't remember the two losses. And
the heat stroke game.
And that one where he threw out his arm because they were playing in the hottest game ever played in Miami.
They ran out of time. Ken Dorsey threw the thing at the camera. It's a fun game. But they were about to win that game, too.
The thing that I have not seen, though, and I couldn't believe yesterday, and it's just so telling with where we are, as the Dolphins fall, Stugotz, what are they now? 3.5 games, 4.5 games, halfway through the season. The Bills are going to clinch the division by Thanksgiving. They're going to clinch the division. But in the middle of 4th and 4, desperate moment, Tua's running toward the goal line. He takes off through the middle of the field, and I think it was Kevin Harlan, shouts, uh-oh.
Yeah, yep. I told Billy during God Bless Football, it's the greatest. It really is. It's one of the greatest calls in broadcasting history because he captured what we were all thinking at home. I mean, he did.
I just can't believe we're watching football that way. Do you realize what a startling difference that is between now and 10 years ago when we were denying that concussions were that bad? We're all watching someone, and it's like someone's rolling an egg on the field. And it's like, be careful. We don't know what's going to break here. Like, we're trying to hide. And he was great yesterday.
He was great, yes.
The Dolphins can't play a lot better than that, and they still lose on a 61-yard field goal. 25 of 28, where they're going down, and every time they have the ball, except 2, they're scoring. Like, I don't know what more you would want from them. And then
play defense.
Okay.
Go for 2. I mean, how about that? Yeah.
Do I miss Fangio? Maybe.
Also crushing turnovers the last few weeks. Mostert with a bad fumble.
Yeah, very bad. And they were driving there. That was at the beginning of the second half. I do wonder, Dan, what do you think of McDaniel's decision to not go for 2 on the road in that spot, knowing your record against the Bills? Like, for me, if you're going to be the coach who's aggressive, who's going to go for it, you have to go for 2 in that spot.
I would have, and I think he might have at other points during his career, but these are some of the things that happen when the pressure gets ratcheted up to this place where you've got Rex Ryan on television, Stugotz, doing this to Mike McDaniel, because it will make you coach a little less confidently when all of a sudden you're walking around on eggshells and your team is falling further and further back in the division, and all of a sudden you start playing safe.
With their coach, Mike McDaniel, who I know you have developed your new name for.
Oh, Mike McGenius.
Yes.
Yes, not so much. I mean, he's 1-8 against winning teams over the last 2 years. And, so if you're going to beat Buffalo, look, their Achilles heel is teams that can run the ball. All right, you want to keep that offense on the sideline, run the football. But that's okay because McGenius is a run game guru, right?
Right.
Except when you watch the tape, I'm like, you're doing zip. Like, what the hell are you doing? Here's our McGenius play. Let's just pitch it to the back and let him see if he can outrun guys. No blocking issues and all that stuff. I just think it's ridiculous. And this team right here, that's why they're desperate. Who cares? You think Buffalo cares? Buffalo's watching the tape going, you guys do nothing. They don't care. You guys do nothing.
Unusual for a former coach to give a current coach a nickname. I will say, in whatever defense it is you think this is of McDaniel, that's as well as the Dolphins can play, and I don't know what you want him to do about 7 fumbles in 10 quarters. Like, Mostert is running the ball. They're running the ball successfully, and he gets it punched out by somebody because all over UM and the NFL, guys are just running around throwing haymakers that start on the sideline, just punching the football as hard as they can.
That's odd criticism from Rex Ryan, because if the Dolphins have done anything good the last month, it's run the football. They've run for almost 200 yards in like 4 straight games.
They ran it well yesterday, 31 carries for 149 yards.
It's all they can do right now.
Right.
Chris, you're a fan. Do you sell? Do you sell at this deadline? I mean, Jalen Waddle did have that nice little bounce back game that resulted in -4 yards.
What happened with that prop bet at the end of that game where Tua had a passing yard
it's
over?
A bad beat. Yeah.
And did you guys see what happened with this? Again, I want to go back. Do you realize how absurd it is for an announcer to yell in the middle of an NFL Sunday as if there's a baby carriage on the field with an infant in it? Uh-oh! Uh-oh! Because we're all sitting around worried. Don't hit him in the brain. Don't hurt his brain. Do you know how crazy it is to watch football that way?
I feel like if there was a baby in a carriage it would have gotten even bigger than that. Like, hey, there's a baby on the field.
Right.
He probably wouldn't have gone with, uh-oh.
He's at the 25.
I get your point. Yeah. But it would have been like, someone get that baby off the field.
Would you agree with me that you haven't seen that before during an NFL game?
Well, last week we heard the crowd gasp, but this was the first time the announcer did it.
In that game, Poyer had a hit late in that game that brought penalty flags. Stugotz, this was something very frustrating to me in general about yesterday, even though I'm the person out here always caring about everyone's safety. The Rams and Seahawks have played that game for 12 years. 12 straight years they've been playing that game.
Yeah.
And in that game, you had a call on Stafford that I'm like, how is that a penalty? That is so punitive to go from what would have been 4th down and they're kicking field goals to automatic 1st down and 15 yards on a penalty that's just asinine. It's an asinine penalty. You can't do that. And so I know this happens every weekend all over the league, but there are these giant penalties for things that are just football. And this is not what happened with Poyer. That was absolutely illegal. And I think one of the announcers just shouted, "Calamity! Just calamity!" That Dolphin game, Billy, how mad are you at the Dolphins? Because we keep saying every week that their season is over and we're putting more and more nails in this coffin, because that gives you reason to hope the way that they play in that game, because they can play with that team, and then you lose on a 61-yard field goal.
And you're 2-6. So I think Mike's question is a fair question if you're buying or selling, because I don't know what the Dolphins should do.
Did you go into that game thinking the Dolphins would win? Because I assumed that they were going to lose that game going into it. And even I didn't even have a problem with the McDaniel going for the extra point instead of the 2 at the end of the game, just because there was enough time left that Josh Allen had time. So if you miss the 2-point conversion, you've given up the game. You've lost the game, right? And they were going back and forth where I think that you trusted if you could stop them, you could take this to overtime. It took them a franchise record 61-yard field goal to win that game, and it took them a Poyer penalty to even put them in field goal range. So, I wouldn't second guess the going for two situation there because they were going back and forth.
I just would have liked it because I thought that's what I was being sold when you told me I believe in my offense above all else. And if Tua's out there, we can run the ball and we're going to move up and down the field all game against Buffalo. One play for the lead. I would have liked to have watched that, but only because I want my coach to be maximum aggressive all the time. I understand why he would play a little more scared than he has been.
I want my coach to be Dan Campbell.
Guy's crazy.
I mean, yeah, but do you want your coach to be Nick Sirianni, who went for 2-3 times yesterday and missed twice, and then he decided, you know what, I'm going to not punt it, I'm going to kick a field goal. He almost cost them that game. I'm not going to push on 4th and inches. Nick Sirianni went stupid over aggressive and almost cost his team the game and seems to be trying to cost himself his job.
Stugotz, there were a number of football things that I wanted to talk about, but Jacksonville losing that game, just being maximum Jacksonville when we all knew there's no way Trevor Lawrence is going to pull this out. Sirianni is trying to gift wrap this for Jacksonville a number of different ways, and there's just no way that Trevor Lawrence isn't going to forever make that mistake at the end.
In that game, there were 3 plays of the year. Dotson's catch, Smith's catch,
yes,
and Saquon with the most ridiculous running back highlight you'll ever see in your life. There isn't a better highlight. He did something that you can't even do in video games. Video games haven't even thought to create a backwards hurdle. It's the single greatest highlight a running back has ever made.
The athleticism involved in hurdling a tackler who's not that low to the ground by springing butt first,
amazing,
4 extra yards, suggests a level of athleticism that's unusual. Guys, you'll grant me this? How many of these people can you say this about in that sport? Because they're making running backs disposable, and we can see, oh my God, Saquon, whatever it is that the Giants weren't there last year, wasn't his fault, and Saquon is one of the guys, and there are 3? Chubb doesn't even get to be one of them anymore. I think it's Derrick Henry and now this guy, which is your NFL football team, no matter how tough you think it is, in the 4th quarter behind Lane Johnson, they're going to wear you out. And Sirianni's going to try and screw it up, but they're going to run the football with a running back who's meant to batter you. And they said it of Chubb. And they say it still of Derrick Henry. Is there a 4th that you can, for all the running backs that you love in the league, are there any that you batter a team with at the end? Because that's what Philadelphia's counting on.
Josh Jacobs, James Conner. I mean, Conner's good.
There's a different tier.
Yeah, it's a different tier.
Stevenson, when he gets going, can kind of be that guy. Big guys with breakaway speed. But those 2 other guys, while they're incredibly fast, Chubb, maybe not so much anymore after the injury, but Derrick Henry, incredible breakaway speed, pull-away speed. You're not used to seeing that from guys that side. You're not used You're not used to seeing the agility from someone that is like Saquon Barkley, someone that, especially later in his career, has leaned into, I'm going to wear you down over the game. But if you can play that highlight one more time, look at the move that he makes before the move. The move that he makes going into that backward hurdle is also special. Would be a great highlight individually, but to have the presence of mind to even think to add a backwards hurdle to that incredible play. Unbelievable faith in your body, and a body that's been broken several times throughout his career, to still have the agility to do something no one's even conceived of before, including video game developers. That is as unreal a highlight as you'll ever see.
What gets undersold is how he gets so drilled after landing too. It's just like every defender there just collapses on him at one time.
Let me ask you guys this, because I think we're watching something, and I've told you this before, how sometimes with aging athletes, Stugotz, if they're still wearing the same uniform and still occasionally able to do what they used to do, it's hard for the human eye as a customer who roots for them and hopes for them to see a precipitous decline as obvious as it is with Aaron Rodgers now. The athleticism in that sport, never mind Saquon Barkley, are you with me that there were 6 catches in the football games played over the weekend where you're like, that's some of the best athleticism I've seen from a wide receiver? One of them was a Duke player One of the catches I saw this weekend was a wide receiver for Duke, where I'm like, that's an asinine catch that dude just
Garrett
made.
Wilson on Thursday night made a play that had me thinking in my living room, is that the second greatest catch I've ever seen?
It might be the greatest catch you've ever seen.
It was being compared to Odell.
And that game felt like it was a month ago. But Dan is right. There are catches almost every single weekend where you're like, and I don't recall a time in NFL history where I could say this, but where you're debating whether or not, is that the greatest catch I've ever seen?
There were two unbelievable catches in that game. There was an Oregon game, the former Texas A&M Aggie, Evan Stewart, made an unbelievable catch that actually didn't end up counting. The game-winning catch for the LA Rams at Seattle, DeMarcus Robinson, I believe, one-handed, contested, an amazing throw from Matthew Stafford. I think this weekend in the NFL and in college really stuck out with the individual level of skill that we've seen in this sport. It's a beauty to watch.
And then the tight ends are mutants, so you're watching, and all of a sudden McBride's running in the secondary, or Gesicki's running around, and Joe Burrow's putting together a statistical game where you're like, oh, really, another 5-touchdown game, and that could have been a 6-touchdown game.
The greatest 4-5 team in NFL history, the Bengals. Huh?
Gesicki made a play. Gesicki made a couple plays in that game. He made an unreal catch where he landed out of bounds and it didn't count. But the skill from these bigger guys we're at an unprecedented point in human athlete evolution to see all these things. There was an era in which we talk about the Dotson catch from that game, that Philadelphia game, for several days on end, and now barely gets a mention in an incredible weekend. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team, faster and for free. As Metalwork Media continues to grow as a content studio, we strive to hire only the best and most qualified candidates. Thankfully, with LinkedIn, they have made it easy for us to find them. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else. Even those who aren't actively searching for a new job might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So, if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/prep. That's linkedin.com/prep to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
So, you want to be a marketer. It's easy. You just have to score a ton of leads and figure out a way to turn them all into customers. Plus, manage a dozen channels, write a million blogs, and launch 100 campaigns all at once. When that's done, simply make your socials go viral and bring in record profits. No sweat. Okay, fine. It's a lot of sweat. But with HubSpot's AI-powered marketing tools, launching benchmark-breaking campaigns is easier than ever. Get started at HubSpot.com/marketers.
Dan Le Batard.
Your history with him suggests 3 years of
Those
heatering
are the
out
heaters.
there. 3 years of heaters. But this Stugotz, my partner, enlivened by a sports
We're
team,
having sex, baby.
and Joe Mauer, yes, like this is the best version of him. What?
Stugotz.
No, you are.
Yeah.
Feels
good.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
In the Buffalo-Miami game, Billy, because I don't know what people are looking at from yesterday and saying that's the game of the day. I saw that the Detroit Lions are right now putting together a season of expectations that has no precedent in their history, where Mike Tannenbaum is making people furious at ESPN because he's suggesting, Stugotz, that the Lions trade for Myles Garrett, that they trade 3 number ones, a 2, and Gibbs for Myles Garrett. And I know that that people are laughing Tannenbaum out of the building on that, and Lions fans are saying, why would we do that? We're perfectly set up in every way. I think Jared Goff, I think over the last 6 games, they have more touchdowns than incompletions because of how efficiently they're playing on offense.
And he's completing like 85% of his passes over the last 6 weeks, which is crazy. But the reason Tannenbaum is suggesting that is because Aiden Hutchinson is hurt. So that's the one spot where if you're going to improve your roster, that's where you would do it. I'm not certain you give up that much to get Hutchinson because they've been fine without him.
Right. But I would say to you just independent. I know everyone thinks that Tannenbaum's saying that's insane. What are you talking about? But if you're ever going to be all in on a season, the Detroit Lions ought to be all in on this season. And if you think you're a pass rusher making you 4 plays a game the way that Hutchinson would that wins a playoff game, like you give up a lot for that. Maybe not what he's saying, but it's an interesting conversation to me that we're having about the Lions because, yes, of course, I want a pass rusher in his prime who can take my defense to something. I know my offense is championship good, who can take my defense to a turnover level that very few guys in the league can actually execute.
But Dan, in an NFC, I understand what you're saying, but in an NFC where the Niners aren't as good as we expected, where the Cardinals are in first place, where the Falcons are in first place, and no one knows if they're any good or not, you have the Commanders, an unexpected team, in first place. Do you need to trade that much to get that guy? That's the only.
I think everyone would laugh Tannenbaum out of the building for suggesting it. It's why it's a take that took off. I'm just saying this is the best Lions team any of us have ever seen.
Yes.
And so whatever you do to support championship there, that mortgages future, like I'm not going to laugh at you because you've never been in this position where I know you're good enough to go into Green Bay and elements be damned. You're still not having any incompletions because you've got an offensive efficiency that's unusual and your coach is saying, what? I can have 4 downs to get 10 yards with this offense? Okay, I'm going to do that as much as I can. And maybe I lose a game. Because they did last year, Stugotz, in the playoffs. But he ain't going to play scared.
No.
He's not going to – he won't shrivel up the way that he'll go for 2 with his offense and 3 yards to get because he trusts his offense.
You also probably won't have the same offensive coordinator next season. It was miraculous that he came back to Detroit, said he had unfinished business. But Ben Johnson, he was asking for king's ransoms out in the open market. But
he'll get it now.
There is no way he comes back to OC your team yet again next year. So I'm with Dan. You got to go for it. Whatever. Cap be damned. Do whatever you can because this is a window that very few teams get.
Well, Dan Campbell last year also said after their loss, like, guys, we may not be back in this position ever again. We may have just blown it. So he seems like a guy that is willing to go for it when he has a chance because he told them after their loss, hey, we may never get this again.
Do you know how rare it is for me to envy a take? At this old dinosaur age where I don't care what anyone's take is on anything. And I'm like, Tannenbaum, you old fox. You threw some good chum in the water there.
He got disrespected, though. Like, the whole set acted like he said the most insane thing ever.
He doesn't care, though. It's chum in the water, as Dan pointed out. You just throw it out there, you walk away.
They overreacted. Like, it was not that crazy what he said.
No, I assure you.
Ryan Clark walked off set.
I assure you, Chris, that every show in America is laughing at Tannenbaum except us. I'm assuring you that is viewed as an asinine take. And what I'm saying is I looked at it and I'm like, salud, Tannenbaum. Well played. You realize what the stakes are on, man, your guys get hurt. I don't even believe that Detroit will remain healthy because why would I believe that anyone can stay healthy in that sport? But over half a season, there were expectations on what the Lions were this season, and they've exceeded them. That's never happened in my life. That's not a thing I've ever seen with Detroit Lions football, where it comes into a season with expectations and then exceeds them. My ass. That's been one of the worst franchises in the history of sports.
So you're saying yesterday Tannenbaum did his job. He earned his paycheck. And I'm with you.
Yesterday. I think it was Friday, but
whenever he said it was great.
Still close to my heart. Good job, Tannenbaum. You got into the take game. Look. You used to be a realtor down here. You robbed the Dolphins. You kept your career alive by just doing the snake oil dance of talking about football on television. And every once in a while you say a shocking thing. And every other time you draft Justin Herbert when the rest of us are looking somewhere else. Tannenbaum's good at that.
He is.
And the Detroit Lions, I think all of us would look at that football team and say, yes, that team could win the championship. And you can say it about you've already seen how Baltimore is going to lose in the playoffs. Like, that's how you expect them to lose. None of you are sitting here looking, even if you like Harbaugh, none of you are like, yeah, the Chargers defense allowing 12 points a game is what I'm going to believe in the playoffs. But all of you are looking at the Lions and saying, yep, I can see how that would beat everybody. That's what they did yesterday in Green Bay.
Yes.
Because Jordan Love got some of that Trevor Lawrence money. Whatever it is your $50 million quarterback is he as productive as Goff? Because that offense is humming in a way that feels a bit Kansas City-ish, Stugotz. Like, it feels like Kansas City used to have what the Detroit offense is now.
Are you saying something's off in Kansas City?
I'm saying something's on in Detroit.
That game seemed awful to play in yesterday, Packers-Lions. Just like cold rain the entire time. Just
not for
awful.
Dan Campbell.
Just awful.
He seemed to enjoy it.
He had a towel around his neck. It's like, hey, Dan, that towel's wet now.
He doesn't care, though.
If I had a time machine and I offered you a pass for whatever reason, and you'd never take it, Dan, because of where I'm sending you, but I offer you a pass to Super Bowl week, you think we're going to be preparing for a Lions Super Bowl?
I'm rooting for it. I'm rooting for it. Why? You have them being upset by a Minnesota or San Francisco?
It just takes one game in the playoffs, and it feels like the Lions are a great team that are just something's going to happen there.
Well, then who do you trust?
Oh, I don't trust anyone.
Okay.
Just in general.
But then you can do that.
Principle.
Okay, but then you can do that to every single team because it's football. Because we're watching yesterday.
Trust the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Oh! Stugotz minor penalty, 2 minutes for Chiefs talk.
Made a sound.
You did just make a sound.
That's not fair, man. Overly punitive.
Life's not fair.
Oh, that's true.
I think Billy's got it exactly right, though. I think Billy's football analysis is better than everyone's on a Monday. You trust no one. Except
None.
maybe the Chiefs.
Even them, I'm like, and my whole trust in the Chiefs is like, well, they've done it so far and they're not doing it well. So, like, when they start clicking on all cylinders, then, like, they're really going to take off. But, like, they haven't yet, and they still look okay.
Travis went to the Taylor Swift concert on Friday. That's a lot of traveling this weekend. I know they're playing Monday night, not a Sunday game, but just if they lose this game, I'm looking there.
I want to play for the people the video of Jason Kelce walking through a parking lot during tailgating and knocking the phone out of someone's hands because they have insulted Travis Kelce with a slur. What are you smirking about, Billy?
I'm not. I have a take that I feel like is dangerous territory that I'm not sure I want to go down because I don't know if there's any coming back from it once I do go down said path. And I just want to, I'm still mulling over. Do you think we should go down the path, Dan? Because, like, I know how this place works, and it's like, let's put out the clip, and let's get everybody mad at Billy, and let's have all the criticism, and let's have blah, 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 blah. And here's the thing. I love Taylor Swift, all right? I've been to Taylor Swift's show before it was in Vogue. I went to Taylor Swift in, like, 2018. Now, how many Taylor Swift concerts can you go to in a year? Like, in a calendar year? Like, it's a lot. Right? Like going to like every couple's shows is a lot. And I understand the same argument can be made for Taylor. Like, how many football games are you going to go to? And that's a fair question too. But like every week we're going to go to a Taylor Swift concert. It just seems like you get tired, like traveling back and forth. And like, I'm not someone that travels every week like Travis Kelce is used to. I'm not a jet setter, but I feel like it's a lot, right? To go to the same concert. Cause like the concert, you basically, if you're a Swiftie, you know this, like, you know, the script. And then, like, the big reveal is like, oh, like she sung a song that wasn't in there. Or, oh, look, her outfit changed from, like, a red snake to a gold snake for this show. Like, the Swifties know. So, like, you go to it and you know you're going to have a good time. But, like, it's a lot of work.
In Travis's defense, I want to be fair here. I'm criticizing him for traveling a lot on a game week. He did leave during Karma, which is her last song. So he got out of there early, beat the traffic, didn't have to sit around. Not that I pictured Travis sitting in traffic for these events, but I just want to be fair to him here. He did leave early.
I don't think so.
I saw a video of him walking out during Karma.
Yeah, but he went to the backstage to like hang out with her. He didn't leave to beat traffic. Like he was there with Tay-Tay the whole time, I'm assuming.
Okay.
You think he just went surprised? He didn't say hi to her, and then he left. And he didn't say goodbye.
I mean, I imagine he saw her before and was like, I got to get out of here after. I got to get back. I got a game.
I saw a stat. I'm sorry that I cannot find right now who to credit it to, but that the Chiefs have won 2 Super Bowls since the last time that Daniel Jones had touchdown passes at home. He had this weekend the first time touchdown passes at home and scored touchdowns at home for the first time in 670 some odd days. And in that time, the Chiefs have won 2 Super Bowls somehow. The Commanders have their best team this century. This is the first time that they're 7-2. They quietly win a game against the Giants that we now expect them to win on the road.
Since 1996, first time they're 7-2.
I mean, 7-2 is exciting when you've got a quarterback that you can trust that way to somehow be magically poised when I don't expect young quarterbacks to look magically poised. That league, though, Stugotz, is so weirdly special because there is not a circumstance that you can divine in any time in history or in the playing of sport where I want to watch that Tennessee Patriots game until you put Drake May back there running for 11 full seconds on 4th down and just farting the ball up in the air and touchdown Patriots to tie a game. That game shouldn't be on national television. That game shouldn't be televised at all. That game should not be watched by others. That game should be played somewhere in a field where people can't watch. Except for the last 12 seconds.
Oh, it was great.
Where Drake May runs around and avoids everybody for 12 full seconds.
That is a great loss for the Patriots, is it not? Because you found out something about your quarterback. He's good. I think Drake May has a chance to be good. But you circle that loss, Dan, come draft time, because it was a good loss from the standpoint of quarterback, pretty good. Gutsy team,
Adam Schefter.
And we lost to the Titans. And when we're selecting ahead of the Titans, you will circle that game and say one of the great losses in Patriot history.
I will not say that. Adam Schefter is reporting that players now want to be traded to the Commanders.
Oh, get out of here.
That's what Adam Schefter is reporting as news, that they want to go to Washington because they fixed their quarterback situation. Are we just going to bury ourselves in football for the next 36 hours to try and hide from what's happening in this country, where I saw a tweet the other day? It feels like America's just waiting around for a biopsy result, where all of us are just, and it's going to not come back tomorrow. It's not. I don't know whether to say here, Happy Election Day Eve, when it's not Eve. It's the day. You don't say anything is Eve if it's the day. I don't know if I want to say happy, and Election Day is not going to be Election Day, because there's no chance we know tomorrow all of a sudden, oh, America's fine, or I'm assuming all of us are at least a little bit afraid that there's going to be violence in pockets. So, trade deadline?
I'm afraid Vanderbilt won't be in the college football playoff. The committee reveals its rankings tomorrow night. That's very exciting.
We're back.
Yeah.
There's no way they're in the initial one.
Body of work. I mean,
body of work. They're 24. Why do we do this with the SEC?
With Alabama.
They're just all right.
No,
they beat Alabama. They beat Auburn on the road. They lost to Texas by a field goal at home. They're a good team.
We're in a dumb place with this conference. LSU is ranked presently above Texas A&M. They have one fewer win, and they lost to Texas A&M. That whole media covering that conference is so confused.
Yeah.
These teams are all right.
Stugotz wants anyone who beats Alabama to be granted immediate playoff access. The thing that none of you had, not even you, NIL expert, None of you were telling me Vanderbilt was going to be this year, where they can go on the road and beat Auburn, and they could play Texas close, and they could beat Alabama. None of you told me that Vanderbilt was going to be this.
Dan, if they just went on the road and beat Auburn, that would be a good year for Vanderbilt.
You know what would be weird is if we did a Vanderbilt season preview segment.
I know,
on this show.
But
I think the general spirit of Mr. NIL telling you that, yeah, there's going to be more parity. The talent is going to be more evenly distributed. And for the life of me, I cannot comprehend as Nick Saban goes on the most popular studio show surrounding that sport and touts this huge lie that the NCAA is telling everybody by saying, if you give us safe harbor status, we will protect the sanctity of this sport and restore competitive balance. That is part of their argument, that they are going to restore competitive balance. Let's all take inventory of the last 25 years of college football and realize in individual eras, maybe 2 or 3 teams had an opportunity to win a championship.
How bothered are you getting by the fact that insurance salesman Nick Saban lording over football still in voice and in lobbying is still out here on television without anyone pushing back on him, just bold-faced lying through his teeth in protection of the system, a system that ran him out at the end, by the way, because he was like, enough of this. This is getting crazy for me. Too many people are being paid. I'm going to go over here and get paid. How bothered are you, Mike, that no one's calling him on this, that he just skips merrily through your every Saturday, and no one, not on that set, no one anywhere is saying he's just out here shilling for the status quo.
Equal time has been a talking point on media outlets over the weekend, and I would really love for someone to push back on Nick Saban and present another side to this, because on the most influential show covering that sport, you don't have a dissenting voice. This is a majority opinion that the NCAA should not have safe harbor status. And it is presented as this outlier thing that is bad for the sport. And it's a terrible, bad faith type of discussion that these studio shows are having. Also, I need clarity on whether or not Nick Saban is actually a paid lobbyist or not. Because he's either getting paid to...
Smoke him out. Somebody smoke Saban out. Hey, Saban, are you a paid lobbyist?
I would ask the question, because he's either getting paid for these opinions or he's paying somebody back. I don't understand why we're not laying all the cards out on the table. And for one of the main core issues to be competitive balance, this is great. This is the most wide-open college football season in terms of who's going to win the national championship that we've had in quite some time. We've had championships in the NIL era that have featured Washington and TCU. Competitive balance is here.
Smoke them out.
You love to smoke people
smoke
out.
Them out. I want that. This is when someone is barricaded in their home, right? You start throwing smoke bombs in,
so they come out.
So they come out coughing. Mike, I want you to smoke out Nick Saban. Make him walk off the game day set coughing because you're asking him shouted questions. Are you a paid lobbyist?
Howdy, loyal audience. It's Mike Ryan, and we're getting down to the nitty-gritty of football season, which means you've probably enjoyed more than a few tailgates, and right by your side at that tailgate is that beautiful white can of Miller Lite. From defending your favorite team after a bad loss to obsessively checking your fantasy lineups, football fandom is bigger than just Sundays. Miller Lite knows the passion that comes with rooting for your team, like the debate that sparked in 1975. Great taste versus less filling. So what's the best thing about the original light beer? Let it be both. It is for me. Miller Lite keeps it simple. Undebatable quality with great taste and only 96 calories. It's a beer that strips away everything that you don't need and holds on to what matters most. A light beer that actually tastes like beer. And the original light beer since 1975. Make your game time taste like Miller time. Tastes great and less filling. Let it be both. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/Dan, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs than premium regular beer.
Stugotz here. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. As Meadowlark Media continues to grow as a content studio, we strive to hire only the best and most qualified candidates. Thankfully, with LinkedIn, they have made it easy for us to find them. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/prep. That's linkedin.com/prep to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.